Welcome back. You're watching Mediaweek. Well, News Corp reported earnings tripled in the first quarter thanks to a one-off gain from an asset sale and higher revenue in the cable network division. But the publishing division's revenue declined 2%. News Corp's Chief Operating Officer, Chase Carey, is confident that it can improve Australian ad revenues. For more on this, our co-host James Manning, editor and publisher of Mediaweek, is here. James, the American TV business strong, but newspapers seeing revenue down significantly.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, there was no Rupert Murdoch again on the conference call this week. As you said, Chase Carey, joined by David DeVoe. They went through all the stuff. Yeah, the cable business really booming along for them. Nearly 2/3 of all operating income now that accounts for, which is around about $1 billion in this last thing. And that's things like the regional Fox Sports network channels in the US, the FX channel, and of course the Fox News channel, which is really doing well now and outperforming all the other cable news channels in the US with viewers, and they're sort of starting to monetize that audience. The filmed entertainment division did pretty well too. It was up around 10%. The big thing driving that was Ice Age Continental Drift. I think it was something like the fourth movie in that franchise. So when you get a big, you just keep making those movies and rolling them out globally, and that's a good revenue earner for them. You mentioned the publishing business, did really badly. Operating income nearly halved for year on year, 110 million last year down to 57 million this year.
What about in terms of Australia? Was there much said about that?
Yeah, they didn't break out the figures. They did highlight, look, the Australian numbers aren't great. The management are working on, and we've seen a lot of that with Kim Williams, stuff he's been doing this year, moves, new appointments. They said they're definitely on top of things there. One of the highlights, or not a highlight, but one of the bright spots, if you like, we could say that, was the launch of the Sunday Sun in the UK, generating some more revenue from that Sunday market, which they lost, of course, when they closed down News of the World.
Just looking ahead, some detail provided about the split of News Corp that's coming. We're hearing maybe end of June 2013?
Yeah, and they said, look, they will unveil in some detail in December. There's a media conference in New York. They're going to have somebody speaking there, and they'll lay out some of the blueprint for what's going to happen there. They said, look, they're well positioned for growing their core business, which I guess these days is that cable business. And it'll be interesting too, you'll be really able to moving that publishing business out, and we should say it's publishing plus the TV business in Australia. So all the sort of Foxtel and the Fox Sports will be part of that publishing business, but you'll be really able to see the two companies, how they perform, specifically be able to drill down and see that stuff.
All right, well, let's just turn to some local news. And we did see News Limited announce one of the first changes, certainly under the new Sunday Telegraph editor, and that's columnist Mia Freedman, Sunday columnist Mia Freedman being dropped.
Yeah, she's gone, signed by Neil Breen, the previous editor, and big profile writer. They used to write around the network, so I guess it was partly perhaps a budget cost. She went even before the end of her contract, and partly for perhaps a change in direction for the papers there. Mia said, look, she didn't really see this coming, but it lets her focus now 100% on her Mamma Mia website, sort of growing business. She said, look, I was over at 90%, now I'll just have all my time on it.
And just looking at the magazine sector as well, ACP or Bauer Australia, as it's to be known. Yes, sorry. Get used to the new name, right? Bauer Australia. It's going to be closing its pre-press department.
Yeah, which is stuff between the magazine getting printed and the production of the magazine, you've got to go through the pre-press. They're going to outsource that now, and that'll save some jobs and probably save some money there for them.
Yeah, but 24
about
staff
24 people, will be affected.
Made redundant. Okay. Just turning to AAP, and I guess obviously we've seen as part of all the big changes happening for the publishers this year, some of those former newspaper journalists from Fairfax and News Limited have joined a new premium wire service offering.
Yeah, AAP Exclusive it's called. This was put together by Tony Gillies, the editor-in-chief of AAP, and he consulted with Peter Fray, who's the ex-editor-in-chief of the Sydney Morning Herald. So they got together, nutted out this thing where they're going to put to use some of the talent which has been made redundant at some of the major mastheads around the country. Jenny Tabakoff, a sort of well-known Sydney Morning Herald writer, is the sort of commissioning editor there, and people can buy those daily columns.
Okay, so it's columnists basically.
Yeah, basically columnists, and they're covering all different sorts from, economics through to entertainment, and AAP subscribers can access that material.
Just turning to 10 work, and we knew that there were redundancies coming. James Warburton had said they were hoping for voluntary redundancies. They haven't got enough volunteers, so now it's going to be compulsory.
Yeah, they're going to be in talks with staff about saying, look, we've got to get these numbers down. I think they were looking for about 100 plus, had close to nearly half that, we believe, in volunteers. So they're going to have to make that up with some people, some extras.
Interesting watching obviously the share price of 10, but we saw Perpetual, something we covered last week, selling its stake in 10, worried about debt levels, but then we've seen obviously though investors still buying in. Is this a sign perhaps, that there is a potential ad market turnaround coming?
Well, yeah, look, it'd have to happen eventually, but as we've said before, look, there's only 3 free-to-air broadcast licences. If you can get these numbers, 10 can get their numbers looking a little bit better. There's tremendous upside there, so Perpetual got out at a pretty low price, so somebody else really saw that as a buying opportunity.
It was a pretty disappointing survey out during the week as well about the media, finding the media is more likely to be corrupt than any other profession.
Yeah, it was an ANU survey, about 2,000 people I spoke to in August, and yeah, institutions that are likely to be affected by corruption, the media was right up there, just ahead of trade unions and politics. But a lot of that, I think, the researchers put down to the sort of still the fallout, if you like, from what happened in the UK, the news of the world, sort of phone calls being hacked, accessed illegally. So that's going to play out. It's going to sort of repercussions, I think, for some time on in the sector.
I guess disappointing figures too in terms of radio, metropolitan radio ad revenue as well in October, a fall there?
Yeah, very flat. I think it was down about 3%. The biggest falls, I think, in Brisbane and Sydney, and Adelaide was a bright spot, if you like, but it was pretty flat there, and Adelaide's the smallest revenue market.
And a new breakfast show's been announced for Nova Adelaide, just staying with Adelaide?
Yeah, Dylan Lewis is going to be moving across. So he's actually going home. He comes from Adelaide. He's been sort of one of the broadcasters associated with Nova 100 in Melbourne. Things held down the morning shift there for a long time. Multi sort of ACRA award-winning broadcaster. Staying with us, Shane Lowe, who's been part of the team there. So they'll be starting up at the end of November with that program.
Let's have a look at the TV ratings. James, this for week 44, X Factor there for 7 again, top spots.
Yeah, still cleaning that up. Sunday night, still doing fantastic. Those Sunday night shows, Sunday night and 60 Minutes.
And just turning the page, and new tricks for ABC
Yeah,
One.
Friday night show for ABC did fantastic business, and straight into sub TV there. You can see the A-League 2 of that top 5 doing great numbers. We're expecting an A-League announcement before the end of this week about their ongoing rights for 2013 and beyond.
And just turning the page, Walking Dead for FX, also there in the top 10, I think. There we go, The Walking Dead.
More A-League there too.
Let's just have a chat about some of the TV news this week. And of course, there's been some big event TV, hasn't there? Melbourne Cup, Big Brother, US election. Let's just focus on the Big Brother final and the Melbourne Cup to begin with.
Sure.
What did we see there in terms of ratings?
Okay, Melbourne Cup, 2.66 million, up marginally on last year. That's the metro number, and about just over 3.5 million people across Australia. That's counting the metro markets as well. Exclusively broadcast on Channel 7, so they do good business out of that. They have that whole Flemington Cup week. It starts on Derby Day on the Saturday. 4 days of racing, ends on the Saturday. So yes, they've done very well out of that.
And the Big Brother final for 9, that's been a big success for it, hasn't it?
Yeah, 1.54 million. They segmented the actual evening up into 3. There's Ben getting the news he's won there. Very excited. 250,000. Not exactly the $1 million they gave away one year, but it's still a life-changing amount of money, I'm pretty sure, for most people. Yeah, it did very well for them. They broke this final night up into 3 spots. They all did well over $1 million, but that little bit of the show where Ben found out he won, just over $1.5 million. And 9 sort of said, look, if you go over the whole, it's something like 75 nights of TV they get out of it. So it did really well, and fantastic into the key demos. And every episode sort of averaged over 1 million people, 9 calculated. So that's great business for them.
We were talking with Jim before, the US election, obviously a huge draw for audiences as well, and boosting shares.
Yeah, it did for Sky News. Had a couple of shows up in the top, and there was the most watched channel there for part of the afternoon, where Barack Obama came out and sort of accepted, made his victory speech, if you like. ABC News share too, biggest share for News 24, about in 6 months, their biggest audience. Yeah, so did well for them.
I guess just turning to those who love their rugby, 10 Network is set to start its coverage of rugby this weekend. Yeah,
they've got the exclusive rights to all Wallabies games now, and that starts this weekend with the what they're calling the Spring Tour. I think the first game's on Monday. And there's a fair few international matches over the following few weeks.
Hamish and Andy, big stars for 9, obviously. Going to be starting contract talks after Caravan of Courage?
Yeah, Caravan of Courage. That's 90 minutes across the second last 2 Sundays of survey. So we haven't got long in the official ratings year to go. I think there's only 3 more Sundays left. 2 of them, Hamish and Andy, will dominate. Then they'll sit down with Channel 9. They had a 2-year contract. That'll be up. They'll talk about what they'll get up to in the future. Will we see some more Caravans of Courage? Will we see them go on another overseas 10-week break? They've been to London. They've been to New York. Will they find another capital? That remains to be seen. We'll probably find out about all that in Nine's Upfront, which will be coming at the end of November, which we'll certainly be covering.
And the biggest news, the Real Housewives of Australia is coming.
Yeah, Real Housewives of Australia coming. We heard last week from Matchbox Pictures, Penny Chapman was on the program talking about 2 big Foxtel commissions. One of them was the Gallipoli event they're working on. She didn't talk about the other one. We've since found out it is that Real Housewives of Australia. They're going to be auditioning for participants right around the country in the next few weeks. So if you're interested in getting on that show, start putting your hand up.
I can't wait to watch it. James, as always, thank you so much.
Thanks,
James Manning there, editor and publisher of Media Week. That's all we have time for from the team here. Thanks for your company.